Ladies and gentlemen, it is your man in Japan, Jay Contra, and I'm here at Huis, which is a theme park about Dutch people from the early 1600s to now. It's kind of like this weird European theme park right in the very south of Japan, and for some reason they have a video game museum, so I thought I'd take this opportunity to talk about the history of Japanese video games, starting off with, of course, a non-Japanese video game console, the Odyssey. This was produced by Magnavox in 1972. I don't actually know if this was easy to find in Japan. Of course, I think probably what happened was you could probably import it, and you can see it even has the cartridge, I'm going to put that in air quotes there, the #1 game there. You could also have cards that went with the games, and then there's the control box over there in the center of the picture now. And there's, oh wow, they even have the screens. Remember, see, the thing about the Magnavox Odyssey was that the games were more or less the same on the screen. Like, you know, you just had a little symbol going around on the screen, but the key was to have these inserts you would put over your TV screen. Like, I'm guessing they would, because of the static, would clean to the screen. And so while not officially available in Japan, the Odyssey, I think probably a few people had it. Then we come down here, we go to Terebi Tennis, or Electro Tennis. This is the first ever video game console ever released in Japan. It was released in 1975. Remember, the Odyssey is coming out in 1972. It takes 3 years for a Japanese company to release a similar system, and this came out for, I want to say, the exchange rate was so weird back in the 70s, but now it would be about the equivalent of $200. I think back then it was even more expensive given the exchange rate. And so this comes out in 1975. 2 years later, we get Nintendo's TV Game 15, or the Kara Terebi Game 15, or 15. And so this is coming out 2 years later. Nintendo's putting that out, and then also in the same year, 1977, this is $150, by the way, at least by today's exchange rate. And then we go for a little bit cheaper for $100. We got the TV Game 6, also put out by Nintendo in 1977. And it's so coincidental seeing this because you can actually, I saw this at the local Hard Off here in Sasebo, and this is going for about, I want to say, 80 bucks used, but it was in great condition if you can stop by. So we go from that, we go from the sort of the Pong console era of the late 1970s to 1977. So Nintendo's coming out with its Pong consoles, and then the Atari 2600 comes out. Now this was $200 at release, so you gotta figure that's about like $400, $500 now. I wanna say, I'm not actually sure how inflation is exactly calculated, but you could sort of find this in Japan, like you could import this. There were some places they carried it, but it was not officially released. Atari would eventually come out with, I want to say, the Atari 2800, which was a Japan exclusive Atari 2600, and that came out the same year as the Famicom, so it did not do super well. What also came out, I think the Intellivision. I think I have seen Japanese packaging for the Intellivision. Yes, okay, you can see here on the right, on the little card here, the Intellivision did in fact come out in Japan in, I want to say, 1982. It was licensed by Bandai. Remember, it was released by Mattel, and then it was licensed by Bandai. It released in America for $300, and then in Japan for 5 mon, or 50,000 yen, which today I think would even be like $1,000 or something, just because of how, or it might even be cheaper because inflation, I think the yen used to be about, I think, 300 yen to the dollar back in the 1980s. And and the Vectrex, you see, I see Vectrexes at used game shops every once in a while. It first came out in 1983, once again licensed by Bandai, and it was first cost 55,000 yen, or $200 in 1982 if you were buying in America. It was much more expensive in Japan, maybe, depending on how the exchange rate works. Then we go, of course, we go a little bit backwards to the Game & Watch, released in 1980. This is going for about 6,000 yen. Here we've got the Donkey Kong version. I'm pretty sure we're all well versed in Game & Watches. I guess the other thing is, well, I guess if you're not super familiar with the Game & Watch, these can actually be super expensive now. Like, I've seen Zelda Game & Watches go for like $200 plus these days, when, you know, they were probably like, $50 back in the day. We've got a Cassette Vision. This was released by Epic. Is the cassette vision, is that an American thing? I thought, but here it's released by Epic in 1981. I thought this is an American thing. Someone's gonna have to tell me. I'm not really brushed up on pre-Famicom consoles. Here we have the Pyutaro. This was released by Tomy, which is a big toy manufacturer. It looks like it's a 16-bit CPU, and you can do G-Basic programming with it. And here we go, the Arcadia 2001 by Emerson, licensed by Bandai. So it looks like Bandai in the early 1980s was doing a lot of console licensing. This was released for about 20,000 yen, about $200 today, although it was $100 when it was released in 1982. And then here we go to Sega's first forays into consoles. We've got 1983, we've got two releases. We've got the SC3000, which released for about 30,000 yen, $300 today, give or take some inflation. That came out, I'm guessing, yeah, so this was billed as a computer, and then here we go to a computer video game console, the SG-1000, the first. I think there were like 3 more of these bad boys right here. This released for 15,000 yen, so about $150 today. These are actually, I never see these in the shops. I never see really any of these. I think I've seen, you know, again, I've seen the Atari 2800 before, and might have seen it in television once, but Vectrex is super rare, especially in Japan. They do not take off that much. So here we're going to advance just a little bit. Here we go. This is where the big boys happen. This is where we finally get to the Famicom. This is your Famicom, I guess you could call it the Model 1. This is your, this is the one you'd have to plug into your coax cable if you even have it. This was released for 14,800 yen in 1983. Remember, the Famicom came out a couple years before the Nintendo eventually released in the United States. And then that was also the same year, 1983, was when Atari finally released a system in Japan, but it came out at the exact wrong time. And of course, we had the Famicom disk system that would come out in 1986. This came out for what is now 150 bucks or 15,000 yen. What is a TV boy? What even is this? Hold on. I can't even read whatever that kanji is for the company name, but wow, I've never seen a TV boy before. Oh, that was cheap. It was coming out for half the price of a Famicom. It's coming out for 8,800 yen, or about 90 bucks, you know, 80 bucks given the exchange rate today. Here we go, a Game Pocket Computer, the Game Pokekon. This is released by Epic, so Epic's trying to, it released the cassette vision and then it's trying to come back, but I've never really seen that before. And here we go with the Mark III, which is it's come out in 1985, released by Sega for 15,000 yen. I'm not super familiar with the Mark III, so I unfortunately can't tell you much about it, although I thought the Mark III bore a lot of similarities to the Master System, released in 1987. So think about it, we've got Nintendo, you know, Sega's coming out with stuff around this time, but it would be 4 whole years before the Master System would even come out. And here we've got it, this is actually, wow, it's, the MSRP is 16,800 yen, so about $160 in today's money. And which is crazy is that, I mean, I've seen Master Systems in the box usually go for about $200 plus, if you're lucky to find it complete. And look at those controllers, baby. Wow, man, that's awesome. And here we go, we transition over. We've got NEC coming into the mix. We've got 1987, so the same year that the Master System is coming out. We've got the PC Engine releasing. And this is super expensive. Like, wow, just think about that difference. We've got for 16,800 yen, so about $160, we've got the Sega Master System. And if you want to spend $80 more, you can pick up the PC Engine for 24,800 yen, or about, that'd be about $240 in today's money. I mean, of course, the exchange rate is so wacky, because again, it was about 300 yen to the dollar back then, and it's too many calculations to do in my head. And then here we got the first ever CD system. We got the CD-ROM, and this is the CD-ROM 2. Although, was there ever a CD-ROM 1? Was that even a thing? I don't know, but here we go. Here's the whole package. The crazy thing is that you had to connect. Hold on, hopefully my finger is displaying properly. But you've got to have that system card plugged in to your PC Engines into this insane interface unit in order for the PC Engine to talk to the CD-ROM. I think that interface unit, I think that cost extra, and they actually don't have a price. But I remember these things, man, even today, they're super expensive. And because of the capacitors, they can cause real problems. So you got to be super careful if you're going to pick up a used unit. So here we go, trying to make this lightning quick. we go over here, we go into the modern era. So, wow, wait, 1987? So they released the Master System in 1987, and then the next year, they have the balls to release the 16-bit Mega Drive. Here we go. This is actually the Model 1. You can tell that it's got the microphone jack, or the headphone jack, excuse me, and then it's got the power control over there on the bottom left. And this is coming out for 21,000 yen, or about $200 today. And not only do we have that, I don't think I need to explain the Mega Drive, but here we go, the Tower of Power. Here we've got a Mega CD unit on the bottom. That was, I mean, today that thing can easily go for $200 plus. And then we've got the 32X, which is hard enough to find in America, but is super expensive in Japan. And so, I mean, so in America, the Genesis's downfall is often given to these confusing, you're splitting off your market between people playing CD games, 32X games. It's just, it was a catastrophe. And so was the case in Japan, where actually, to be honest, the Mega Drive did not do very well in Japan. In America, it did really well, almost beating the Super Nintendo. But in Japan, it was a very distant second. So around the same time, we've got, and of course, sorry, this is coming out in 1991, a couple years after the Mega Drive. We come to 1989, the Game Boy finally releases, and it's coming out for really cheap. It's coming out for 12,500 yen, or about $110. I guess with inflation, that'd be about $200 in today's money, if I'm not counting the won exchange rate. And then think about that, that's 1989 for $110. For about $180, $190, we've got the Game Gear. This is coming out in 1990 from Sega, and then right on its heels, if you want to pay double, so think about it, you're paying about $100 for the Game Boy over there at the time. You come over, you buy the Game Gear for $200, and then in the same year for $440, you've got the PC Engine GT. Now these are super hard to find, and especially working units can be very valuable. They could actually, you know, it was 44,800 yen back in the day. It's easily that now, even just for a loose console. If you can find it complete in the box, you're talking about $500, $600 plus. And then, wow, oh man, they even have a Lynx. Now, Atari did try a push for the Japanese market, because you can see here, it released for $180 in 1989, same year as the Game Boy, and it's coming out for, wow, almost double the price. It's $300. It's 29,800 yen. That's 3 times the cost of a Game Boy, and that's in the contemporary currency. I don't even know how much that would cost now. But wow, the Atari Lynx. You can find those, I mean, for about $150 now. If you find them complete in box. They're not impossible to find in Japan, but they are being uncommon. And of course, I don't need to explain the Super Famicom to you. It released in 1994. The equivalent of, it's 25,000 yen. That's about $250 now. And of course, if you find a nice, beautiful version of the Super Famicom in a beautiful packaging, it might even be that expensive, especially if you're buying it in Tokyo. Although I want to say $100 should be the maximum you should spend for a complete in-box Super Famicom. Here we go, the Neo Geo. So we're coming out 1990, the Super Famicom. Here we go, 1991. We've got Neo Geo's release of its arcade hardware in home console form, and it's going for 48,800 yen, so twice the price. You've got Super Famicom over there, and then if you want to spend double, and that's just for the console itself, you've got the Neo Geo MVS. And this would be the last Atari system, I believe, to release in Japan. Now the Atari Jaguar, I have seen Jaguars here in Japan, so people were picking these up. It doesn't give a yen price, so I don't know if it was licensed by anybody, or if it was picked up by anybody in Japan, but it's going for $250. That's what it was released for back in 1993. Once again, I guess officially only released in America, but I have seen it around. And so let's jump towards, wow, the LaserActive. We're going to 1993 over here. This, I believe, combined a PC Engine or a Mega Drive with a Laserdisc system put up by Pioneer. This was 89,000 yen. That was $900 back in 1993. That's probably like what, $1,500 today? Like, oh my god, and these are super hard to find, and easily $700 plus if you can find them used, and that's just loose. Now the Playdia is very interesting to me because it came out in 1994. It's a CD-based system. It's coming out in the same year as the PlayStation. This is Bandai's console. Remember, we were just looking at Bandai Pong systems back in sort of the mid to late 70s and early 80s. They released their own official system. I remember this has a lot of Dragon Ball games for a lot of Bandai properties made debuts on this Playdia system. It goes for about $100, I'm going to say, if you can find it complete in box. It's not really that sought after, but it does have an infrared controller, or excuse me, an infrared raised controller right over there. So we haven't even gotten, we did skip ahead a little bit to 1994. Here we go, here's the 3DO. This is going for 54,800 yen when it first came out, so about 550 contemporary dollars, or about $1,000 today given inflation. That's crazy. Remember, the thing that's so weird about calculating inflation in Japan is that inflation in Japan just hasn't happened. So here we've got a Neo Geo CD. It released in 1994 for 49,800 yen, and 49,800 yen back in 1994 is about 49,800 yen today. Like, that's just how inflation has been in Japan. And of course, here we've got the tank version of the Neo Geo CD. Here we've got the Pippin app mark. It's going 1996. It was released for 49,800 yen. I'm seeing something. Remember that I think the Pippin app mark, I think Apple had something to do with this. It does have a Power PC CPU inside it. Yeah, let's see. Yeah, you can connect to the internet, and it was made in cooperation with advanced technology by the Apple company. Now the Pippin is very difficult to find. I think I've only ever seen it once at a used game store. Now we go from 1996. I did skip over 1994, which is a huge year because we've got the PlayStation coming out for 39,800 yen, and then for $50 more, we've got the Sega Saturn. Here you can see they even have the RAM cartridge hooked up into the back. And something that I guess is a little bit weird for this video game museum is that they've got the DualShock. They don't remember, for the PlayStation controllers did not have analog sticks on release. So that's actually an interesting choice. And here we've got, of course, the loyal Pocket Station. And then we go down here, we go to 1995, so just before the Pippin app mark comes out, we've got the Virtual Boy, which is actually, you know, I thought it would be more expensive, but it was only about $150. It was released at 15,000 yen. That doesn't seem that expensive to me, but of course the Virtual Boy is known as the failure. In fact, it failed so bad that Gunpei Yokoi would leave Nintendo and go on to produce the Wonder Swan. Now let's move over here. Here's NEC's last attempt. They invented CD-based gaming, and then they go on to the PCFX, which is not too hot. I remember when you could buy PCFXs, I think I could find them for like 70 bucks in the box, and now they're going for, I want to say $200 plus. This released in 1994 for 49,800. Wow, so here we got 49,800, so we got $500 consoles. I actually don't really know the introductory price of American consoles, but it's very interesting to me that in 1994 and 1996, you had these consoles, these three very different consoles from very different makers, all trying to hit the same price point. Remember, all of them are CD-based. Now we're going a little bit modern. Here we've got this beautiful, beautiful Nintendo 64, including the disc drive, which is incredible to me. Look at that. That is a very rare and expensive controller. That smoke gray controller could easily be worth $100 plus. And that 64DD is itself easily worth $300 plus. But the Nintendo 64 itself released in 1996 for 25,000 yen, or about, like its American price, about $250. And here we go, the Game Boy Pocket. We've got, wow, the Game Boy Pocket, at least in 1996, it took that long to miniaturize it. Wow, and it's going for 6,800 yen. And interestingly enough, it's actually probably worth about $100 now if you find it complete in the box in Tokyo. Of course, I would not pay $100 for a Game Boy Pocket. Here we go, Game Boy Color, releasing 2 years later in 1998 for a little bit more, going 8,900 yen. That's about $90. That's about what, $150 today, depending upon how I'm calculating the exchange rate. We have the Wonder Swan coming out a year later. This is not the Wonder Swan color. That does seem to be a bit of an omission to me because I can't see it. I can't see the Wonder Swan crystal anywhere. Here we got this coming out super cheap. This was released in 1999. So remember, you've got the Game Boy Color coming out for 8,900 yen, and then for half the price at 4,800 yen, you've got the Wonder Swan coming out in 1999, released by Bandai. I guess this is literally their swan song. is Bandai's video game swan song, the Wonder Swan. And then the Neo Geo Pocket. This is not the Neo Geo Pocket Color, by the way. This is the original Neo Geo Pocket. This is releasing for 7,800 yen in 1998. I don't see any games for it. That's unfortunate. I think there are some cool Metal Slug games for the Neo Geo Pocket. That would be cool to check out. And then here, all by its lonesome. Wow, it's so solitary. But what a system. We've got the Dreamcast here. And they released it for, wow. So in America, the big deal about the Dreamcast was that it was $199, released in 1999. But here we've got the Dreamcast release. This is its 20th anniversary. We're here in 2018. This Dreamcast came out for the equivalent of $300. This is a 29,800 yen system, and it was priced really expensively in Japan. And I think, wow, that's very interesting. I did not know that. Of course, the Dreamcast is phenomenal. And then we come over here. We've got the PlayStation 2 coming out for $39,800. Remember, the big deal about this system was that it could play DVDs. That's what Sony wanted. It wanted you buying DVDs, and that's why this is about what you would pay for a DVD player back in the day. And so instead, people would just buy the PS2 so they could play DVDs. And Sony didn't care. They just wanted people buying DVDs. A year later, we've got the Xbox coming out a little bit cheaper, releasing at 34,800 yen. It's about $350. How much was it in America? Was it $300? Around 300? And in Japan, it just did not do well. The Xbox did not do well with 360. I don't know if it did any worse or better, but the Xbox One is a complete and total garbage fire here in Japan. And then the beautiful GameCube, probably my favorite system from the era. The Dreamcast is great, but I gotta give it to the GameCube with this one. It's coming out in 2001 for 25,000 yen, about $250. And the great thing about these systems now is that if you want to collect, these are your systems to collect. PS2's dirt cheap. GameCubes are still dirt cheap, although they don't have the. I wish that I guess it was iconic for the GameCube to be in purple, but I would like to see an orange one. Orange is iconic to me because in Japan that was the exclusive one they had the Japanese market. We've got the DS. Wow, the DS was 15,000 yen. That's about $150. Remember the 3DS was like $300 when it first came out, or like $250? It was super expensive. Oh wow, they even had an N-Gauge. Wow, I guess it did not. It appears to have not been officially released in Japan because it's got a price listed as $300. It was released by Nokia, of course, a Finnish company, and it was released in 2003. I guess we got a bit portable game lineup because we come down here. Here's the Game Boy Advance SP, and that's actually a beautiful version because that is a very limited color. You've got that red and the black color scheme. And they don't even, I wish they did have informational cards because we got the Game Boy Advance up here coming out in 2001 for 9,800 yen, about $100 in today's money. And then we've got the Mini. This is the Famicom version. What was this, the Game Boy Advance Mini? I can't remember exactly what they called this, but this is actually super expensive. This can easily be $100 plus if you're buying this used now. And of course, we've got the PSP all over here. It's kind of, I don't know, it's a little bit sad. I wish there was a way you could kind of have these screens on and have these plugged in just to show the games. But this released like in 2004, and I remember it was a big deal because it was like, oh, it was like a PlayStation 2 that you could put in your pocket, and everybody freaked out at that. And then we come to the modern systems, the original, the grill PlayStation 3. We've got the Xbox 360. We've got the Wii. I don't want to make this video too long, so I'm trying to. And then we got the Wii U. We don't have a Switch. I guess this I think museum is a year or two old now, and they did not have the space to put up a Switch. But I do recommend if you are coming to Huis and Bosch, for whatever reason, you come around and check out this beautiful museum that has some things that you might not ever see. And this has been the Video Game Museum in Huis and Bosch, Nagasaki Prefecture, Japan. Thanks for watching. See you next time, and mahalo.